Good evening, everyone. Welcome back then to another LFM stream here for round number 2 of Season 16 here in the Case King Pro Series, where we take to what looks to be some sunny skies of Spain in our pictures there. That is right, we are at Barcelona after an amazing season opener last week for Silverstone. What a fantastic race we had going on there, where we saw Boatley reign supreme in the hands of Teemu Karppinen. Absolutely extraordinary stuff and a fantastic way to kick off the season. A man that's carrying some good confidence in that car as of late. And coming into round number 2, of course, last season we had a different winner for every single round of that season. 12 different winners across those races. We'll have to see, are we looking to break that streak already, or are we going to have another season just like it? One way or another, I think is going to be absolutely fantastic. Now, Barcelona, a tricky, technical, and twisty circuit. Not quite the same open-flowing, high-speed nature that we saw from Silverstone last week. So it's going to be an interesting one to see how it plays out in terms of the dynamic between some of these cars. I would expect to see, the likes of the drivers in the Porsches, for example. They might be in a bit of a happier time around this track, especially that final sector. It's so twisty. You need a car that dances around like it's on an absolute knife edge, but has great braking and great corner capabilities. We've got mixed views in the chat already about this circuit. But, as I say that, as it stands, if you want to have an impact on the way this championship plays out, you can. If you head over to the LFM news thread in Discord, there is a vote going on as of right now where the third round of the championship will be taking place, where you can help decide where our drivers will go. Currently, the vote is between Paul Ricard and Misano. Two very interesting circuits. It's one that I feel has a significantly less positive response than the other, but the voting is pretty close. And I think that's because the racing around both of those tracks is absolutely wonderful. They've put on some crackers for the Case King Pro Series. But if you want to have your say in terms of how the championship plays out, do head over there and give a vote on that side and see where we go for 90 minutes of racing next week. Should be very, very interesting indeed. I have no doubt about that. But, like I say, we are at Barcelona for the evening. See how it all plays out for these drivers and who is going to be coming out on the top of that. Misano is way ahead, and exactly, but they didn't think of the Mr. Carpet Army, did they? Looking to make it 2 on the bounce at Paul Ricard in that Boatley, so we'll have to see. It could be close. So I must admit, and this is not just because a Boatley won the race last season. For anyone that's been around here for more than 5 minutes may know that I'm just a little bit of a fan of that car, and just a tad on a weeny bit side bias towards it, that I may have voted Paul Ricard, but only because it puts on fantastic racing. We've never had a dull race there, not because the Boatley reigned supreme, and I won't hear anything else about it. Anyway, let's head over to our drivers for these final few moments of practice before they head over into their qualifying session, and then of course 60 minutes worth of racing to kick things off for the evening. As of right now, it is currently the reigning Case King Pro Series champion George Boothby, and that big bellowy Mustang making his way around. And of course, if memory serves correctly, we did not have him for the season opener last time out. We did not indeed. So this is the first time we are seeing him. Of course, if you're thinking, does that start to scupper his chances of defending his title? It doesn't make it any easier, but there are 2 drop scores across the season. So there is every chance and possibility still that he is in this title fight, and that fight for him starts at Barcelona, which is going to be a really interesting one to see how that plays out for the Mustang, because on the one hand, this circuit is tricky to overtake at. There's not too much in the way of opportunities. There's also a very bumpy pit lane for these guys to be negotiating as well. And so, on the face of it, it doesn't necessarily feel like the Mustang is a great car to have. It's not, it's not a circuit that would tend to lend itself to that platform, the some of the twisty corners, stuff like that, but it's got a very, very powerful engine under the bonnet of that car. It's very fast in straight lines, so it could open up some opportunities where other cars can't. So it'll be a very interesting one to see how that plays out. Of course, we have last week's race winner, Team Confident, in that beautifully visceral esports liveried Boatley, making his way around the circuit. You have some other big names for the evening, some sort of Heimo and I think that's Samir Foch in there as well, merging with one another. We've got Tinko back in the McLaren. That'd be an interesting one around here. Of course, that car, generally speaking, it's a bit difficult sometimes to extract pace out of. Could fly under the radar a little bit from time to time with the custom BOP within the Case King Pro Series, and maybe one that's more suited to these long, high-speed corners. So keep an eye on that man. Of course, Tinko had an incredible season when he did take the championship win not too long ago. Nicholas Huben looking to continue his fine redemption of form last week at Silverstone. Of course, remember, championship leader for the opening half of the season last time, but it started to go a little bit awry from Spa onwards. He didn't quite ever dial in that consistency again before the end of the championship, but that doesn't mean to say that he is out of the running for this season, because he is back, fresh car, and fresh back on form as well. So be interested to see how he gets on. I've got a feeling those Bentleys could be pretty speedy around here tonight as well. Of course, have to give a shout out to this man, our champion from a couple of seasons ago with that, and now in that Nissan GTR, a car that we have not seen at the pointy end of the almost any grid in the ACC's lifetime, but certainly not in the Case King Pro Series lifetime. So it was a very interesting, unique addition, but seems to have served him pretty well so far over the course of this season. But of course, we're only one round in, much to see, much to enjoy, and so much that can happen and change. Welcome in, everybody, and thank you very much for the kind words, and a big thank you once again for all of the incredible support on this channel. We are heading towards 4,100 followers at an alarming rate, and the fact that whilst it is still a chunk away, there is no doubt about it, that 5,000 followers is even a possibility here on this channel, and is just incredible. So thank you very so much for the amazing support. Buckle in. Qualifying is about to get underway, and I think it's going to be a cracker. These guys in the Pro Series do have a habit of bringing these things down to the wire. It is clean and dry running all the way throughout this session. It'll be Aidan Walsingham in the Aston Martin, be the first car out on track. A car that you'd have to think would have a good shout at being decent around here. It's kind of, the Aston Martin as of late has just been a car that's got good balance. It's a very drivable car. It lends itself to being pushed. It, enables you to be super late on the brakes. It's fairly kind on the traction. Sometimes it does just lack a little bit of overall raw pace, but especially if you have anything with mixed conditions, struggling with tyre, whereas one of the few front-engine cars that probably handles its tyres a little bit better than some of the others. So it kind of put on a surprise. Naden, of course, multiple-time race winner in the Case King Pro Series. Definitely a driver that can put on some fantastic performances. Was poking around the top 3 of last season's championship. And I'm sure we'll be looking to not just do so once again, possibly even go a little bit better as they head on down towards the hairpin. It's a short lap around here at Barcelona. Already through the kinks of 11 and 12, and we'll go on board for a lap with the Aston Martin driver in just a moment. We had some immediate complaints about this chicane down here towards the end of the lap, and I can't help but agree, really. For me, really spoils the flow of what is otherwise such a fun and fantastic circuit, but nonetheless, I'm sure it's going to be an absolute cracker for tonight. So we'll go on board with Aidan Walsingham as he heads on down the start-finish straight, building up the speed then in this Aston Martin, up into 6th gear before even halfway down, and go in towards the compression, looking for the braking point on the outside, using all the track and a little bit more towards turn 1, flicking across, hook that car over the curve, mind the little sausage on both the first 2 apexes, carry the momentum through in towards turn 3, patient on the throttle, front end starts to wash out on the power as early as you can, and then run it all the way to the outside of the track, heading onto the bridge in towards turn 4 there, braking just under, use the engine braking to really help slow down the car, carry good speed on the power again as early as you can, swing your way over towards the right side of the circuit for turn 5, down to 1st gear. Nice exit there, you can see the car starting to squirm just a little bit. The Aston Martin picked up its power pretty nicely, but it can still be a bit of a handful with these guys, where they drive it around through this very tricky uphill chicane. So easy to invalidate the laps through 7 and 8 in towards the fast right-hander of turn 9. A little bit tricky on the entry, over the bumps, all the AstroTurf on the exit, and then towards the hairpin of turn 10, braking around the 100-meter board. Down in towards first gear once more. Good rotation on the power. Now through the kink of 11. Trickier corner than you'd think. Square up the line into 12. Patience, patience, patience. Squeeze on the power as you head on towards 13. Maximising the track width. Be careful of that curve on the inside of the circuit. And then through this very tricky and technical 14-15 chicane, taking a little bit too much of a chunk through there. You can get away with a bit of a sniff on the exit 15 with the sausage on the outside line, but that one on the inside definitely will bite back. Aidan Walsingham then, first bid for him in the Aston Martin, 43.127, immediately displaced by the reigning champion George Boothby, 43.0. There's more times coming in. Let's see. I want to keep an eye on the likes of this man, Luke Whitehead, always formidable in qualifying. 43.3, maybe Mercedes not quite dialed in as much as he would like around this circuit. Good effort from Philip Menard. We've also got the likes of Sean Arnold joining us once again in the top split of the Pro Series. It'll be interesting to see how he gets on in that Veloce Aston Martin. Hooven up into P6, currently leading the way for some of these Bentleys. When you find Tinko van der Velde all the way down to 43.9 on the opening bit. Maybe just getting the tyres dialed in. Dario Iemolo. Now, that's a man that is familiar with winning in the Pro Series. Has previously been a dark horse. He's in the Audi for this season. Not a car that we have seen in a competitive state in a long time. But perhaps, of course, you know, that mid-engine platform, so agile in some of these corners, but still a good balance between that. Some good grunt and high-speed cornering capability, but it could be a little bit eager on the tyre wear over the course of the race. We'll have to wait and see. Also, I can tell you that George Boothby, motoring along, has definitely not lost any speed since that slight hiatus between the two seasons. 3/10 up on the Delta at the moment in that Mustang. It's a big car to wield around this circuit, but he knows it oh so well now. Into the fun chicane. Beautifully judged through those couple of apexes. Maybe could have been a little bit tighter. Lost a bit of time on the exit, but used all of that V8 motor in towards the final straight. And then hits the line, 42.700 on the dot. Almost into the 0.6s. As Dario Iemolo will be looking to improve as well. Currently on a 0.9. Tenth of a second up on the Delta. 3/10 up on the Delta, actually, for Sam Gaskell in one of the Mustangs as well. That saw some cheering on for this man. We've got some good improvements for Iemolo, Del Fanta, Gaskell, Frey, and Taj Dain as well joining us. George actually bombed the Ford after season on stream at a few tracks. Interesting there. So he's contributed there. Oh, much better that time from Tinko van der Velde, but a slightly better one from Sam Gaskell. So McLaren makes his way previous up to P3, but it's the Nissan GTR of Amedeo Castorino that puts a 10th and a half on everybody else. And we were talking to Amedeo last week, asking what was the thinking behind this rather inspired choice of a GTR. And it's certainly a car that is looking speedy, and I'm sure that's going to be a popular choice in the chat there. And Godzilla right now reigning supreme. Leon Burton then in the number 16 Ferrari. Ren Wilson Esports making his way around the final corner. Tajane ends up in P6 after that next lap, and Leon Burton immediately displaces him. Who else have we got improving as it stands? Tans Venzahacker for Williams Esports. Another Bentley in the grid. My goodness, I am treated this season, aren't I? As he goes into 23rd position in the number 33 car. As using so much of a track on entry there. Really, though, at this level of competition, have to maximise everything that you can find. Tinko in that number 8 McLaren currently finds himself P8 in the order. Making his way through the long right hand. And I couldn't possibly comment. But in towards the final few corners he goes. So tricky to nail these apexes in this type of car. But between this and the Ferrari, definitely two cars that don't deal very well with some of these bumps. Boothby improved up to a 0.6, still needs a 10th and a bit. Tinko does find some time, does a low 0.8, up into the top 6 he goes. But needs a little bit more if he wants to challenge for pole. But it does look like it's stronger territory right now for that McLaren. Meanwhile, further down the order, Marco Schada in the Honda. He jumps up almost into the top 10. The Honda's starting to feature up there as well. Fantastic mix of cars that we've got this season. Definitely one of the most diverse seasons I feel that we've had in a while. Fabrizio Campanella for Visceral Esports. Number 15, Lamborghini. We've seen this car in the hands of Sam Gaskell last season start to rise up to competition. Meanwhile, the Italian goes up into P19. Good lap and improvement for Valentin Barrier. What can he do? Up into a top 10 for the Aston Martin driver. Good stuff. And there also was another improvement for Dario Iemolo. Needs a 10th to get towards that Nissan GTR. That benchmark is looking pretty handy right now, but Iemolo is on good pace so far. Let's go on board with the Audi driver, Purple, as he heads through that turn, but it is very even on the Delta, sacrificing a little bit of speed on the exit through this very twisty chicane kick out of the back end. Trying to get that bit of rotation, but he'll want to keep up the momentum. How's he fare through here? Early upshift in towards fourth, maybe a little bit too early. And that's an invalidation there. Back to the pits he will go. Trying to carry speed through there is an interesting... maybe not wanting the TC. I'm not sure if he is running a TC on board that Audi, actually. There seems to be a bit of a mix now. We were kind of stuck in TC0 for a lot of cars for a while, and now there are some using it, some not. Not quite sure where the Audi sits on that scale. I think the TC system on that car has always been a little bit on the dubious side, so people try to get away with low values where they can, but it can be a handful. Tinko improves up into the top 5 then. See what we can find further down the order. Samir Foch in the Mustang, currently sitting in 28th position. 5.5 minutes left on the clock, and still plenty of opportunity for some improvement to be found. A relatively short lap around here. Nice and tidy through the final chicane. Good couple of tenths found on that lap. Should be good enough maybe to scrape his way into a top 20. It's going to be close. I think he might just miss out for the time being. He does. 23rd place for Samir. And as of right now, no one else out on a lap and improving. So currently provisional pole sitter Amadeo Castorino in the Nissan GTR. My goodness, I could be wrong here, but I'm fairly confident Amadeo does go pole in this session. That would be the first GTR to be on pole in Case King Pro Series history. But right now, it is Nissan and Audi that would make up the front row. Who would have thought? We've had our eras of Porsche dominance, M4 dominance, the McLaren as well for such a long time. It was an absolute weapon of a car. But now we find ourselves with 2 cars right now making up the front row that no one would have had their cards on, I think, a few months ago. We'll see, though. 4.5 minutes left to go, and there are improvements coming up through the other portions of field. Phil Manar has found time. I've got a feeling, though, he's invalidated this lap somewhere. He is currently a 10th up. Luke Wyez backed out of his lap as well. But Phil Manar, of course, the man had a fantastic campaign. Took his first win in the Case King Pro Series in the very final race of the season as well. And really shone. And maybe just taking a little bit of time to dial in some of this pace. Lead Aston Martin as it stands, I think, is in the hands of Valentin Barrier. That is a good improvement. In actual fact, it was a valid lap from Philip, the South African, making his way up into P12. So a little bit of work to find in that lap time. Not many more opportunities left to go. Let's go on board with this Nissan GTR. For one, it's a beautiful noise, and for two, it's such an interesting car to see how it navigates around here, because we haven't seen it in a long time. You're going to get familiar with where the pace and performance comes from in these cars. And also, meanwhile, keep an eye on George Boothby, a 10th up on the Delta, Purple in the first sector. But Amadeo, the champion from a couple of seasons ago, is looking to spoil the party. Del Fanta finding time too. So neat and tidy through the chicane there. Fantastic stuff from the number 11 car. And so calm on the entry through the right-hander, absolutely maximising the track width. It just looks graceful so far from Castorino. Graceful so often is also very, very quick. Maybe carried a little bit too much speed into the hairpin. Very marginal on the Delta. Lost a bit of time. Commentator curves that one. Niklas Huben improves to a 0.8. Gets himself up into the top 10. It looks like a calm Porsche. Absolutely. Yeah, other than that, other than the slight handful of oversteer in towards the hairpin, it is going to go for another attempt, but there's definitely time in that car. George Boothby does improve, and he gets within a few hundreds of Amadeo. It's going to be a very, very close fight to the finish here for pole position. Philipp Mann is continuing to find time. Looks like he could get into the 42s here, which would be good enough to maybe navigate towards the top 10. What can he do? P9 for Philipp Mann and manufacturer's honours for the time being. But 2 minutes left on the clock. Multiple drivers inside of the top 10 improving in their cars. It's going to be very, very close and interesting to see George Boothby a little bit further up the road from Amadeo. Might even see Amadeo pop into the background here as he heads in the shot. There he is in that Nissan. George Boothby very close. Iemelo as well is not out of this either. He's somewhere between Amadeo and George on track. And right now it is the Audi driver that's finding the most amount of time. Boothby through a fast right-hander. Luke Whitehead improves up to 17th place. I think he might have enough time to go for one more. But the two-time Pro Series champion struggling to get pace out of that Mercedes. Boothby is up on the Delta. It's not by much. And Iemelo is also pushing. This could be a very, very close fight to the end of this session. Even Gaskell in this one as well. Quarter of a second covers the top 6. And right now, as George Boothby heads into the final series of corners, he actually will even have enough time to go for one more after this if he's got the fuel to do it. He is up on the Delta. I think this could be enough right now to nudge Amadeo, who's had to back out of his lap. Can George Boothby return to the top? He does the same time to the 1,000th of a second, but he's got time for one more, and he's going to go for one more. Iemelo, can he do anything about it? He doesn't. He's 5,000ths of a second down on his previous best. Luke Whitehead has gone back to the pit. So has Nicholas Huben. Del Fanta improves to P4. But nothing further. So it's game on between Castorino, Boothby, and Iemelo. Right now, your pole position is not even separable to the nearest thousandths of a second, but the Nissan GTR right now is holding on. But Iemelo, he's found a 1/10 of a second in the opening 3 corners alone. Philipp Mann also finding time further down the order. And he's got the champion from 2 seasons ago just up in front of him. Fantastic fight to the end in this qualifying session. Red 97 absolutely could well be. We are in Spain after all. Let's see. What can Iemelo do? What can George Boothby and Castorino deliver? Philipp Mann finding a little bit of time further down, but I don't think enough to really challenge these top 3 drivers. Boothby's out of it. Boothby cannot improve. So right now it is Amadeo versus Iemelo for pole position. They're neighbouring on track. They're almost neighbouring in the field. It's a little bit of a wide turn there for Castorino, but Iemelo is continuing to stay up on his Delta. Castorino is not improving. So what can the Audi driver do? He would need a mighty final couple of corners, but this final chicane so often can have absolute bagfuls of time in it if you nail it through the first apex. He's giving it absolutely everything that he's got. I think he's losing time here. Amadeo is not going to improve. He peels into pit lane. What can the young Italian do as he heads towards the line? Number 14, is it good enough for pole? It's not. And so it will be Amadeo Castorino for a debut pole position for the Nissan GTR here in the Case King Pro Series, on the same lap time as George Boothby, which I think in itself might be one for the books. Tinko van der Velde trying to find time towards the line. He doesn't quite improve. He does improve, but it doesn't change his position. And that is qualifying over and done with. If that doesn't get you excited for an amazing race to come, then I don't know what will. Fantastic stuff between some of the very best in the business. Boothby and Castorino, your last 2 champions, and they make up the first 2 positions on this grid. But a Nissan GTR on pole. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Amadeo clearly has way picked the car, but at least from our side, incredible stuff to see. Such a brilliant mixture of cars up there. Nissan GTR, Ford Mustang, Audi, Honda, making up the first 2 rows. And we've even got a McLaren in there for good luck as well inside the top 6. Absolutely brilliant stuff. And I have a feeling that this race is going to be an absolute blinder. So if you haven't already, you're enjoying that incredible qualifying session and want to stay in touch with not just the action to come, but also the weeks to come for this amazing series, do consider giving the channel a follow. We are just 25 followers away now from 4,100. If you also haven't already and you want to have your input and vote on where these drivers head to in the third round of the championship, you can head over to the LFM Discord server, to the LFM news thread, and vote between Massano and Paul Ricard on that side of things. And whilst I may have a slight inkling as to where we may be heading, your vote still very much counts and can swing things, especially if the entire Carpet Army head over there in force. Anything can happen when those guys are employed for their duty. But what a qualifying. And I think it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful race. We will have a bit of a look through the grid in just a short moment, because there we have it. Amedeo Castorino, pole sitter here today for the first time in that Nissan GTR. Not an unfamiliar position for the Italian driver to be starting in, but is to see that Japanese car up there. George Boothby starts on the front row alongside him, and Dario Emolo, fantastic potential from him in this race. See what he can deliver after 60 minutes of action here at Barcelona. Del Fanta makes up the second row of the grid with Sam Gaskell for Visceral Esports in the next of those Mustangs on the third row. Joining alongside Tinko van der Velde. Good showing from him in the McLaren, that car working well around this circuit. Leon Burns in the number 16 Ferrari. He starts in P7 with Kevin today in the next of the Visceral Esports cars, but the first of the Lamborghinis. Those mid-engine V10 platforms going to be working well. Quite a lot of crossover architecture between that and the Audi, so perhaps not too surprising. Emanuele in the number 21 machine, switching over to the Ferrari for this season. We've seen him in the BMW fairly often, so good to see him in a different car for the Italian job team. Philip Manar rounds out a top 10 with Nicholas Uben starting in P11, and then next in the field, Janis Reinders. Good stuff from him to start P12 for the LFM team liveried Mustang. Oystein Brennan for West Competition Racing, distinctive livery on board that BMW. Fantastic. And a lot of hard work that went into that one. Justin Stubenrauch, man, took his first victory in the Case King Pro Series last season. He starts just ahead of Marco Schade for the next of the Hondas. And Valentin Barrier, he'll be a little bit disappointed with that in the end, I think, because he showed some really good pace in the mid-portion of that session. Was sitting inside the top 10, but displaced down to P16 in the end. Luke Whitehead, the two-time Pro Series champion, he starts in 17th place with Daniil Tillich in the number 31 Aston Martin. We'll be joined behind by Amir Hosseini in P19, with your top 20 rounded out by Marco Jonkers, another one of the 296s for West Competition Racing as well. Marco has had some fantastic races and also pole positions himself in the Case King Pro Series. Has capitalised on some tricky conditions at times. It'll be interesting to see what he can deliver. Tan Spencer Hacker starts in 21st place ahead of Aidan Walsingham and Lorenzo Magnani in the number 22 car. And there'll be a cry of despair in the chat as Timo Karppinen, last week's race winner, and the next of those Boatleys down in 24th position. So he's got some work to do if he wants to try to convert this into another strong points result. Michael Frey starts in 25th place as then Fabrizio Campanella followed up by Grantis Correcas in 27th spots. And we made it. We made a deal with Timo. If he finishes 6th or lower, he will join us for endurance on Saturday. If he finishes 10th or lower, he'll do 2 stints. So there's a lot riding on the line here for Timo Karppinen, and he's given himself a chance. So keep an eye on that man. He'll be fighting for more than points today, by the sounds of it. As we have Samir, Sean Arnold, and Vincent Proel see our way to the end of the top 30. Martin Lawrence next of the Bentleys. He starts in 31st position with Joshua Gruning in the Visceral Esports Aston Martin. Nicely put together livery on that car again. Of course, Visceral always put on nice livery for their cars. First time I think we've seen it on Aston Martin, so nice one there. Lucas Schneckenberger next up with Rene Felder in another one of these McLarens. making a tiny bit of a comeback, not too much in the field, but good to see more of them there. There's another one of these Nissan GTRs, and that's a smart-looking livery there for Lewis Petzold in the number 36 machine. Zhang Duran next up. As a actual fact, I feel like there's been a little bit of shenanigans here between my timing board and where they lined up on the grid. Not quite sure what's happened there. Meanwhile, Josef Kufel rounds out the field one way or another in that one. So we will head to our race start then very soon. They're coming down the back straight at the moment. It'll be Castorino that leads them away on the opening lap. And off the line... Oh, it's going to be interesting. I mean, the Audi. Who remembers the rocket ship Audi off the line? It wasn't too long ago, but that thing was an absolute. I mean, it was almost a hazard towards turn one. If you had one kind of like maybe sitting down in kind of like P8, the problem was it could still be P1 by the first corner. It had just an immense amount of acceleration at the start of the race. And Amadeo, when we were talking to him last week, an interesting point that we gathered from him was that he chose this car partly because of the advantages that he feels it possesses off the race start. So whilst that Mustang might start to come back at him a little bit on the run in towards the first turn, at least off the start, he does think that that car is going to be good. But he's got interesting competition behind him because the Audi and the Honda as well of Del Fanta will be menacing, will be looking quick, and is going to be looking for a fantastic race results. 60 minutes of action then here at Barcelona for round number 2 of Season 16 in the Case King Pro Series. About to get underway. Will it be a dream start for Nissan GTR? We'll have to wait and see. Drag race turn towards turn 1 starts now, and it could be Del Fanta with the best run of them all, but the pace starts to build up in the slipstream. Castorino getting away well. Does George Busby look up the inside? He's trying. Emilo, though, trying to sneak one up there as well. And they're side by side in the background. Castorino holds on. It's Del Fanta and Emilo, the two Italians side by side through the next couple of turns. Everyone so far has made it through relatively safely. It's lots of side by side action, though, in towards turn 3. But it's Castorino that's gone off well at the start of this race. Cinco Van der Velde trying to find a way around Sam Gaskell up ahead, as that's Philip Menard trying to make his way around the outside of Leon Burton, and now turning to the inside in towards the next corner. Could get a little bit stacked up here through turn 5. And that's a little bit of a bump towards the outside line. I don't think Leon will be too happy about that one. He's got bigger problems now, because in towards the next chicane they go. Emanuele is through, and Stubenraut squeezing on through in towards 7 and 8 as well. So that has not worked out for Leon Burns whatsoever. But it's a dream start for Castorino, but Boothby is immediately hot on his heels. Only 4 cents of a second away. What will the drag race be like towards turn 1? Emanuele under pressure. That was Luke Whitehead sending one from downtown towards the hairpin. Got to be so close for it to not get too busy on that apex. But they stay clean and tidy for now. And it's Tanzvin Zahaka just behind in that Bentley under pressure from Oystein Brenner. Marco Yonkers in the next of the West Competition Racing cars. We'll be watching on eagerly, trying to see if he can make a move on his teammate. But it's a very defensive line taken there from the BMW. It's a wide car at the best of times. Amadane then leads by half a second at the front of the field. Half a second on average, separating all of those towards the first turn. I don't think anyone's going to be able to make a move other than maybe this man, Nicholas Huben, looking to scream his way past in the Bentley, and he has done just that. He has indeed. Leon Byrne has to concede the position, as that was a dive down the inside. Michael Frey almost making contact with Marco Yonkers there, trying to go for the over and under here. Sent towards the outside line at turn 3. Can't find a move around there, so I have to wait for another opportunity. What about Amir Hosseini on the tail of Tillich behind? Nothing for him. Kurekaso maybe in with better luck versus Samir Foch. These two with Karppinen right behind them. Karppinen having lost a position from the start of this race. Correctors with some damage on board the front end of that car will go on board Teemu Karppinen as he watches on. He's not got Vincent Broel on the outside of him. I don't think Vincent can make anything work there. He can't. Neither can Samir. And into the chicane there will go. But Karppinen has got some good grunts underneath the bonnet of this Bentley. Will be eagerly trying to make his way past that Ford Mustang. George Boothby has latched onto the rear of your race leader as well. So we could have a drag race towards turn 1 on the next lap. But that Nissan GTR is no slouch in a straight line. You saw, got a little bit busy in the mirrors there for the Finnish driver. Not quite as busy though as it is for Amir Hosseini versus Daniil Tillich. And there's a lot of bumping there, and it may be Aidan Walsingham to come on through. He does. In towards the right-hander he goes. He sneaks up the inside. Opportunistic driving there from the Brit. And as he heads into the chicane, covers the inside line, stops any further challenge from Amir. Now, meanwhile, towards, this could be an opportunity. This could definitely be an opportunity towards turn 1. Oh, I thought the rate of momentum that Boothby was gaining there. But in the end, he has to back out of that one. Not quite able to close in enough. Last lap around, Iemelo, though, fastest of that lead group of 3. Korekas sending one down the inside. Amir Hosseini not giving up too much there. Sent on a bit of a wider line, getting very, very close to bumping with one another. This could be an opportunity for Teemu Karppinen, and then up the inside he will look towards Samir. He's going to have to head towards the outside line because it is covered off. We look through that window around the outside. He will try to go. Has he got the move done? Samir covered it off again. Karppinen, no way through as of yet for the Finnish driver. Your top 3, though, are starting to bunch just a little bit. Still 0.3 of a second between George Boothby and Amadeo Castorino. And then Dario Iemelo locked onto the rear of those two as well. But Delphante, Gaskell, Van der Velde as well, very close in that next train. It's really only down towards P7 where there's even remotely something like a break, and Kevin brings that down, as I say that, to 4/10. Fantastic racing here at Barcelona. We knew it was going to deliver busy action from the start of the race, and I have a feeling it is going to continue all the way to the end. Michael Frey not able to find an opportunity on this occasion. But you can see there's definitely a bit of an exchange here between these cars in terms of where they find pace. Pranow cheering on his boys for the evening. They were keeping a close eye, especially, of course, with Sam Gaskell sitting inside the top 5 again. Really rose to fantastic pace and performance last season. Last time around, Tinko van der Velde, fastest car on the track. So keep an eye on that man trying to make moves up through the field. Oystein Brennan, could he be under pressure from Marco Jonkers here? A little bit of a think about it. Not quite as much of a think as Michael Frey was trying to aim for the outside line. Don't think that was going to be the way to go. Sam Gaskell, speaking of the man himself, within just a couple of tenths of a second of Delphante. But he's got Tinko van der Velde hunting around the gearbox of that Mustang. It roars its way up the gears. But that McLaren, it may be tiny by comparison, but that car, just like the man behind the wheel, a bit big of heart and definitely can deliver some big performances. Seeing Mustang able to comfortably ride those curbs through the chicane, and also has got the benefit that mighty torque can kill a little bit of wheel spin as well. Run a higher, longer gear, and then carry good momentum up through the rest of the sequence. But you can see how close it is. That's a mistake. That's a mistake for Castorino. Saw just go a little bit wide through that line in towards the hairpin. Manages to keep it together for the time being, but George Boothby does not need much of an invitation, nor will Dario Iemelo. But George has to consider any move that he is going to make. Very much starts to bring the Audi into frame as well, and that Audi is so quick through the final chicane. Is there anything that Iemelo can do in straight line performance versus that Mustang? Sam Gaskell goes and does the fastest lap of the race so far. The Nissan GTR has got good drive out of the final corner. Doesn't seem to be the stronger car throughout the most of the lap, but that final turn puts the power down, accelerates beautifully and comfortably. And Houben, also a man that's on the move right now in the Bentley further down the order. I say on the move, he is down one position, but he is certainly trying to find his way inside of the top 10. He's applying pressure to Justin Stubenrauch at the moment. Thank you really so much for the support and the follows as well. So many of you here enjoying this crazy, crazy action in the Pro Series. I say it like it's a surprise. It's the same way every time we go racing, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Luke Whitehead wanting to find his way past Marco Schade. He knows how to pull off some pretty special moves, but Mercedes just doesn't quite right now seem to be lending itself to this circuit. Maybe will be a bit stronger I can see that car being better at the likes of Paul Ricard, Massano, wherever we head to next week. Maybe a better one for that circuit. But around here at Barcelona, this could be a dive. This is definitely a dive from Luke Whitehead. He loves a lunge. Has he got it stuck? No, he hasn't. Marco Shardo reads it beautifully. Goes for the over and under, reclaims that position. But whilst it loses the pair of them time, it does bring then the likes of Tanzin Zahaka and Oystein Brennan a little bit closer into the fight. Not a great lap from George Boothby this time around. The gap has opened to 0.8 of a second, and we did see last week that there were certain cars that could stick with that Bentley pace in the opening laps, and then that was where the difference started to really grow. Although it is Del Phantom has actually set the fastest lap of the race. Luke Whitehead here, maybe in with an opportunity. Gaining in the slipstream, but nothing that can be done in towards turn 1, so have to wait again. And also, I say the gap was opening. George Boothby had one good run through the first couple of corners, and he is immediately applying the pressure once more to the back of this Nissan GTR. Look at that timing board. That is a beautiful sight. I know we're only 10 minutes into this race, but this is getting very, very busy. All of the top 6 close to one another. And that means that in terms of a dynamic of strategy, sometimes, we have a 3-horse race in the opening stint. It's a case of, well, if that car, does an undercut, that car goes a bit longer. That one's probably going to appear around halfway through the race, and then they're going to end up there, and so on and so forth. I wouldn't exactly say it's predictable. The Pro Series is anything but predictable. But it means you can at least start to kind of read how the plans and strategies of these races might start to play out. But when you've got 6 cars all in to that fight, that really starts to add to the dynamic. You not just have to think about the cars directly behind you. You have to think about the one that's 3-4 cars behind you. Even the likes of Tinko van der Velde, currently right now, only a second of it to the likes of Kevin, Philip, Jans Reinders, and Emanuele inside of the top 10. That's not a margin where you can discount the strategies of those cars. It should be fairly high degradation around the circuit, which is going to make those dynamics of the undercut and the overcuts a bit more severe and a bit more impactful in terms of the racing, and importantly for us and those of you watching at home, ever more exciting. Boothby closing in the slipstream once again, but just unable to dispatch of any time and gap that Amadeo has there, as Castorino and George Boothby separated by 100th of a second last time around, and Iemelo was dead on the money exactly the same time as George Boothby as well. So incredible stuff from these guys, and I think we are still 23 followers away from 4,100 officially. I think there's a kind bit of rounding up going on there from Twitch, so if you are enjoying the action, do consider following the channel, because this is the sort of crazy action that we have every single week. But a big thank you to those that have done so already. Further down the order, busy time still for Marco Jonkers in the Ferrari 296, scrabbling away behind the BMW of Oystein Brennan, seeing if that car can deliver any more pace. But that BMW is wide, it's quick on the straight. It's going to be a very difficult one for him to pass as well. What's also so fantastic about the Pro Series, we mention every time we go racing, but it doesn't matter where in the order you are having some fantastic racing, because you can see further down the order, we've got the likes of this fight here, Vanteen Barrier and Lewis Petzold. Vanteen had a terrible opening lap, I think, 13 positions down, and Twitch is just being a bit optimistic, shall we say. It's trying its best, as much like Nightbot, we love them all, as this fight continuing to scrabble on. So is the fight between Amir Hosseini and Aidan Wilson. We'll have a little bit of a look and see if our stewards have been busy. They have been busy, but as it stands, no penalties have actually been applied so far. A lot of no further action for a multitude of those instances. This Ferrari is looking handy in a straight line. This could be an opportunity, perhaps, if Amir is brave about it. Thinking about it, he won't go for it, but Samir will. Down the inside of Grant Carekas, who we know is struggling for damage. They'll be side by side through this next sequence here. Samir down the inside, little bit of contact. That will put the Mercedes potentially in a compromised position, but Carpenter, I don't think, is close enough to pounce and go for a move. It was hard racing there between Samir and Grantas, but in the end, it was the beloved streamer that ended up coming out on top. and I'm not even going to comment. No, I refuse to comment. But what I will comment on is that does somewhat suggest Carpen and Mr. Carpet will be double stinting in the endurance. Exactly, Kylo. That's what I was also thinking as well. I'm glad that you've come to my very justified defence. Meanwhile, towards the front of the pack, we will look to see as George Boothby is applying the pressure once more to Amadeo at the front. Half a second still separating these two. What has developed Pro Series in some of these recent races? We had at the end of Season 15 as well. Season 15 as well. It happens to the best of us, Pranav. It's okay. But you know, so many of these races where we had cars absolutely nose to tail from start to finish, but in some of the races it was 1 or 2, maybe 3. This time around we've got barely half a second separating most of the top 6. Fantastic stuff from the very best on the platform. And Boothby continues to be in hot pursuit here. Iemolo losing a little bit of time. Del Fanta, not a great lap from him. Look at the run that Boothby gets through the opening few turns. Wonder if that Nissan GTR is struggling with its tyres somewhat. Of course, it is a bit of an older car. Won't have the most comprehensive of aero packages on board the number 11 car there, but certainly some good grunt. Handy little V6 under the bonnet as well. And certainly with the custom bop, I'm sure, a fairly forgiving amount of weight on that car as well. But the modern tech on the Ford Mustang, certainly one that will be a formidable challenge over the laps to come as well. Welcome on into the chat, Tim, my beloved partner in crime in the commentary box on so many occasions. Good to see you, my friend, and hopefully sharing the comms box with you soon once again. And hope you are doing well, buddy. Let's sit back, enjoy the action. By the looks of it, we're in for a good one and in for a treat over the remaining 3 quarters of this race. 45 minutes of action left to go. And George Boothby not looking to remotely sacrifice any time to this Nissan. Definitely an exchange of pace between Sector 1 and 3 in favour of the Mustang. And then in towards that middle sector, the Nissan maybe with a little bit of reduced weight on board the car. A pretty handy car around there. And absolutely, Pranav, I could not agree more. Tim, beloved and fantastic commentator, and has helped bring to life some fantastic streams over here as well in the Virtual Endurance Master Series. And cannot wait to have him back in the comms box once more. So fantastic to have him around. Boothby, closest he has been. He's definitely handy in those opening series of corners, able to chomp over those curbs with no issues whatsoever and a good amount of torque to carry the momentum on through. As Iemolo now drops to a second away from these two. Right now looking to be the class of the field. They're the class of the field in qualifying as well. Dead heat between them when it came to the fight for pole position. In the end, Castorino did that, 0.522. Just a few minutes earlier, Boothby gave it everything he had. Couldn't quite eke out any extra time. But right now, of course, the points on the table always comes down to the race. And George Boothby, he's the winningest driver in Pro Series history for a reason. He's the #1 man on the platform for a reason as well. He knows how to win races from a number of positions, whether it be by strategy, whether it be by defense, or raw attack and pace. He has had so many to his name and is looking to try to add one more to his tally. He had to wait all the way until the penultimate round of the season for Season 15, his championship winning campaign, before he took a race win, and only took 1 over the course of the entire season. Did take 2 pole positions, was our only driver to take 2 pole positions over the course of that season. We only had 1 repeat pole sitter. Such a fantastic season of brilliant dynamics. And this one, I'm sure, is going to be the very same tale. Luke Whitehead having another go. This could be a better opportunity for him. I'm sure we're going to see a dive. Oh, he thought about it. Marco Schade, though, doesn't flap under the pressure. Oh, it's a chunk of curb and a power slide and a half there for Luke Whitehead. He is definitely pushing. Meanwhile, my goodness, what is going on here? As there was a bit of shenanigans between Frey and Tillich. I think that's nudged Tillich back just a little bit as well. But it is Amir Hosseini who's scrambling to try to find a way around the outside, then to the inside of the Aston Martin driver. Tillich is not done with the fight here for 19th position just yet either. Oh, tries to go down the inside. Can't make it stick. They just about keep out of each other's bumpers. But Aidan Walsingham applying the pressure, as is Valentine Barrett versus Josef Kufos. I think it's Valentine's got the move done in towards that very tight left-hander of 5. And goes back up into 28th position. He'll want to recover some more places, though. And Amir Hosseini really aggressively scrabbling here. That is bringing Samir Fosh. That was a very deep bit of braking for Aidan Walsingham. He could be in trouble here. That's Amir Hosseini on the inside. Then towards the outside, they do touch. Amir goes a little bit wide. There's Carpenter hunting around for an opportunity. Of course, he does have that penalty. That was not my fault by any stretch of the imagination, but he'll still race as if he is fully in this fight. He will have to serve that penalty, of course, in the pit lane. The stewards have deemed him responsible for causing a collision on the opening lap of the race. Meanwhile, Boothby unable to make a challenge on Amir, but it is Timo Carpenter using all of that speed of the Boatley to make his way down the inside in towards turn 1. I don't think there's anything that Amir can do. He can't. What about Tillich versus Michael Frey? They've had fireworks so far as Walsingham trying to split the pair of them. That was never going to come off. Somehow, they finally managed to get on through. Carpenter's gone out very, very wide here. Amir could be looking out the inside, but he's got bigger problems. Samir is trying to go out the inside of him. Can he make it stick? It is Frey that holds on in front of his train. Walsingham under pressure from Tillich now. The Boatley drifting out wide as Amir desperately tries to defend from Fosh behind, sends it out the inside. Not a great line for Carpenter. And Hosseini goes back on through, and the pit window has now opened as well. Carpenter back on the attack, back on the charge there. Maybe not too happy about that one. That wasn't a great exit for the Boatley driver. In actual fact, the Mustang could sense an opportunity here in towards the middle sector. What a fantastic scrap we got here. Look at the train of cars. There's the Lamborghini all the way down to Fabrizio Campanella, who is getting involved in this one as well. Will we see anyone pit early on? We have got cars carrying some hefty damage around here. And it is a circuit that definitely needs a pretty ship-shaped aero package as well. Boothby having dropped a little bit away from Castorino. Does he fancy an undercut over the Nissan? We'll have to wait and see how do they look to play it. Says Emanuele is going to be one of the first to buy. And that's an interesting one. That Ferrari should be able to hold on to its tyres relatively well. We've got Tillich and Carpenter coming in as well. Coming in hot, almost getting a drive-through penalty, or stop and go 30 actually. And possibly would have been a little bit more if he had bumped the Aston Martin ahead. Yaz Reinders has made his way past Philip Menard. Great race so far today from the number 10 car. Fantastic bit of form from the number 10 Mustang that we have running around. See what he can deliver over the course of the race. You can see Kevin not too far up the track. And that Mustang definitely is one that can make moves as and when he comes across those other cars on circuit. Tinko van der Velde has shown some good pace so far this race, trying to get this McLaren to find some form and work nicely for him. It does look like he is stronger than the Mustang that sits ahead of him right now, but it's a case of can he find the opportunity, because as soon as he gets close, the Mustang starts to pull away. We'll go on board with Tinko. Such an exciting driver to stay on board with. And there's case in point there. Maybe trying to carry a bit too much speed through the long right-hander in towards the chicane. Yeah, that early upshift, trying to keep the power down nicely and keep the back end in check. As he really flicks out the back end. This car is severely underpowered compared to a lot of the other bits of GT3 machinery. Sounds like an angry wasp. And it's going to get angrier because that Mustang just pulls and pulls away. Nothing he can do there. Surely, I feel like similar to George, his best opportunity here is on the run towards turn 4. See, how do they fare through the opening sequence? Mustang superior over the curb, but then you would think this McLaren should come back stronger. Little bit of a twitch from McLaren, in actual fact, in the dirty air. Several twitches for the McLaren, so struggling there, and apparently a penalty for Lewis Petzl further down the order. Will catch on board with that in a moment, because it is scrapping away between Michael Frey and Aidan Walsingham once more. He's trying to go the long way around all the time. It's allowing Samir Foch to make his way on in and have his say in all of this. Walsingham trying to use as much of a track as he can get away with, has kept Michael Frey incredibly honest there, and crucially, that will give him the inside line for the next turn. Will we see that Aston Martin sending out the inside? We do indeed. Frey can't get the power down. Has he got company from behind? He has. Samir looking towards the outside line. I don't think he was ever really challenging for that move. That's more of a deterrent from Michael Frey. If he's not careful, though, driving too much on the mirrors, he will see Walsingham go on through. But yeah, fantastic move there around the outside of turn 4 to stay alongside in these cars is not easy. Gave him the opportunity, and now he has an opportunity to break away, because Frey having to concentrate on his mirrors, with Samir using all of that pace and performance in that Mustang to try to find and hunt for an opportunity. Big slide there for Michael Frey. Those tyres are really starting to struggle. Tinker van der Velde comes into the pit. So out of our top 6, he is deciding to go for that undercut strategy relative to those around him. Have to see what he can deliver with a fresh set of tyres on board. And look at this also, as not only Frey comes on into the pits, the fight for the race lead. George Boothby 0.3 of a second to Amadeo Castorino, and Iemelo, who's been nudging his way back towards these two, finds himself back into the frame there. And a bit of a wonky entry there. It's a bumpy pit lane and a half. And we saw Timo also almost very much make his presence known to the car in front of him on the entry to the pits. As more of you following at home, big thank you to those that supported. We are now just, I think, 21 followers away from 4,100. It'd be amazing if we can hit that milestone before the end of the evening. We have 35 minutes of action remaining here in this round, but so many more beloved races in this fantastic championship to come over the next few weeks. So do stick around and stay in tune and see what you can do. I didn't know it was a rally car. Absolutely. It's, yeah, the entry around here, these guys, they are very, very high on the commitment with that. Meanwhile, so Tinker van der Velde has emerged comfortably ahead of Emanuele, who was the first of those to pit. Not a great middle sector from George Boothby. Able to gain it back through the final couple of turns. Does anyone come into the pits here? They do not. So they are staying out for the time being. But Del Fanta and Sam Gaskell will come into the pits then. So they want a fresh set of tyres on board their cars, as also Philip Menard came on in. This other little scrap, Steuben, Rauch, Huben and Burns, as this could be a change of position here. Nicholas Huben on the charge, has an immense amount of straight line speed on board this boat. The Aston Martin is no slouch, but Nicholas Huben on a mission there, down the inside, in towards turn 1. He will be kept honest through the next series of corners, and there'll be a very, very hungry Ferrari watching and waiting for an opportunity in the background, who's trying to set up the biggest over and under of his life. He can't get close enough to the inside and can't carry the momentum, and it's Huben that gets the job done, unless there's an attack from Steuben Rauch. That was committed defense from Nicholas Huben there. And now Steuben Rauch losing some momentum through the corner. Could be under pressure here. Leon Byrne thinks about a move on the inside. That's very late on the brakes from the number 24 car, trying to cover it off. He does cover it off. And they continue as they were. Meanwhile, gaps all of a sudden, after being within a few tenths of a second, have opened up to a whopping 0.8 of a second between our two racer leaders, as Del Fanta and Sam Gaskell emerging out of the pits. Where's Tinko going to emerge in all of this? He's gone around the outside of one. Can he make it past the other? He has gained out of this. And can he even gain a little bit more? Those tyres will be up to temperature. So it looks like that undercut has benefited him. And you'd have to think that car could hold on to its tyres later on, but you did see equally him struggling somewhat. Also, we've got Emanuele Tajdain versus Kevin Tadai as well. The two Italians on circuit scrapping away. as Iemelo has come into pit lane then. So doesn't want to risk being undercut by some of those behind, and also equally wants to try to go for an undercut on those up ahead, but he left it a little bit too late. It looks to me like it might be about 0.6 of a second per lap that the undercut is worth. We'll have to wait and see how it all comes together. Also, we've got some more penalties that have hit the field. Got a warning for 22 car. That belongs to Lorenzo Magnani, who is having a fantastic wheel fight with Timo Carpenter at the back of the grid, and Lewis Petzold as well, who is going to very quickly have an Aston Martin steaming down his inside. Of course, Timo Carpenter has that 15-second time penalty. Was trying to carry an immense amount of speed on the pit entry there. Cannot make it stick as Iemelo is wheels down underway. We'll see where he emerges in the field. 5 seconds for another 36, so that was for Lewis Petzold. 5 seconds for the 22, that was Lorenzo Magnani. So they've both been in the wars a little bit, as then the 26 car has a penalty as well. We'll find out who that is in a moment, but the more important question is, has Iemelo stayed out in front? And the answer is just... But it's going to be close because he is on cold tyres. And Del Fanto, I think there was a bit of contact there even. We'll go on board with Tinko van der Velde. See, as Iemelo takes a tight line, trying to shorten up the distance there. But these undercuts are looking fairly powerful. Last time around, it was a 43.8 for Tinko. As Amadeo Castorino comes into pit lane. So he is not interested right now in risking being undercut from George Boothby there. Thought George might have gone a little bit more aggressive, but he decided to stay a bit longer, go for a bit of an overcut relative to those around. I can't see where the number 26 car is. There's a good chance I maybe left the server because they do have a 10-second time penalty. As also joining Castorino, your race leader in the pits, Janus Rangers, Leon Burnt, Marco Jonkers, Fancy Barrier, Joshua Gruning as well. Warning for the number 31 car, that was Daniil Tillich. 5 seconds for number 17. That goes to Michael Frey. And a warning for the 37 car as well. Luke Whitehead in with an opportunity here, perhaps. Still scrapping away behind the Honda of Marco Schada. Now, you'd have to assume for Amadeo that he's going to be... Oh, he is well okay. He is well okay. Dario, I think, has too much to think about with these other cars, as Tinko van der Velde having to defend from Sam Gaskell for a moment. Of course, the undercuts, the Mustang managed to hold out for the time being. Leon Burns emerges out of the pits. Where does he come out? And that is between Philip Menard and Oystein Brennan. Tinko, though, looking very speedy, looking very racy. And we know just how good he can be in these GT3 cars as well. Took his only championship and several race victories in an Audi of all cars a few seasons ago. One of the most dominant performances we have seen in Case King Pro Series history. As meanwhile, George Boothby comes into the pits then, and he should be comfortable and fine in terms of where he emerges relative to Dario and Amadeo. But Amadeo, he could be a little bit up the road. Does George feel confident he can reel him back in? And question to the chat there, do you guys feel confident that he can reel in the Italian that has led since the start of the race? We'll follow this little fight and see where Amadeo emerges amongst these drivers, as Iemelo leading the way then for this battle. P10. Dario Iemelo trying to see if he can do anything to disrupt the race of Castorino. How does he get on? There's a lot of shuffling on the timing board, and the answer is, with George Boothby as well emerging up the order, that things are as they were amongst your top three. Not too much has changed in terms of the gap between Amadeo and George Boothby. Maybe lost 0.3 of a second along those lines, but crucially, Boothby with slightly newer tyres, maybe he'll do something a bit different for the second stint. And a big hello in the chat, and a warm welcome to you and everybody else. I think we've got quite a lot of new viewers for the evening, so a big warm welcome to the world of the Case King Pro Series and Low Fuel Motorsport. If it is your first time following us and joining us here on Twitch, you can follow the channel. We're just 20 followers away from 4,100. We've got some fantastic action lined up by the looks of it until the end of this one. 26 minutes remaining. And behind Eric Delfanza, just 3 or 4 tenths separating one another. Seeing what the McLaren can do. Cozying up to the back of the Honda driver, able to deliver a blow if the right opportunity comes along, but he has got that big bad Mustang to think about as well. And I have just a sneaky suspicion that there's a very good chance that this Mustang may well go for a run on this occasion. Depends how smart is the chicane. It could have been better. Could have been better. It was pretty good. Through the final corner they go, and now we watch on as the Mustang builds up its straight line speed. Almost a party feature of this car. The number 4 barreling on down towards turn 1. Not able to make his way past, and he will work up the order and try to find an opportunity elsewhere. Philip Menard also scrapping away with Yanis Reinders at the tail end of the top 10. Aston versus Mustang. As meanwhile is Honda, McLaren and Mustang inside of the top 6 that are fighting one another. Race leaders not included, of course. Great little scrap between Oystein Brenner, Marco Schala and Luke Whitehead as well, who I'm assuming has tried to either match the previous stop or has gone for an overcut, hoping that is what seemed to be an inherent pace advantage over the car ahead. Work out for him nicely. Not sure, looking at it at this point, that it was the best call, but plenty of opportunities left for him to find a way through. And case in point, here we go, because Oystein Brennan trying to apply the pressure to the back of Marco Schala. Once again, Marco just not having any of it. Meanwhile, Luke Whitehead on the charge here towards the outside line. He will look to go. Dives from one side to the other. It's middle of the road defense from the West Competition Racing car. And Luke Whitehead has the door squeezed on him. But I think you got to accept that. Competing, of course, for some amazing prizes here in the Pro Series. There's a lot on the line for these drivers. Fast lap of the race for Amedeo Castorino. Great stuff and great action there on board this side camera of the Mercedes. Seeing what it can deliver. Closing up to the slipstream. That BMW is just too strong. Maybe if a slipstream wasn't there for the BMW as well, it could be a little bit on the handy side. As apparently Amedeo Castorino, as well as setting the fast lap of the race, sets it by 7 thousandths of a second. A 43.02 for Pranav and a 43.027 for George Boothby. Very, very small margins for these guys to be working with. And opportunities here for that gap to close, but we didn't really see it shift too much in the course of the first stint, especially when it came to that sort of mid-phase management. But could find some opportunities, get some more speed out of the car, slightly fresher tyres as well. Number 1 sitting in P2 as it stands. And I don't think anyone called your name on this occasion, Pranav. That's but good to see that you are. I was about to say eagle-eyed of hearing. That's a great one, John. We'll move on from that. As meanwhile, okay, well, it must just be me. Well, clearly it is me. Well, I take it all back then. I don't know when or how, but so one way or another, these guys in hot pursuit of each other and trying to see if they can close the gap because it was sitting around that half a second mark. And I refrain from my previous statement. I retract. Mr. Commentator has had a moment and got confused that these guys, they give me enough drama as is. Meanwhile, Tillich and Campanella will cut to one of your boys instead, scrapping away through in towards turn one. The Lamborghini driver trying to swoop around the outside, unable to do so on that occasion. Over and under, also not coming off for the Lamborghini driver this time around. And first, commentator's cursing Carpenter. No, we came to the conclusion that it was someone else's fault anyway. I think we were blaming Pran earlier, but I was relieved of responsibility for Carpenter's errors earlier on in this race. I'm not having people backtrack over that. I shall retract my previous statements and miscomings of a moment ago. But no, that was all over and dealt with very earlier on in this one. Meanwhile, we'll cut back to the action towards the pointy end of the grid. Sam Gaskell applying the pressure in P6 as it stands, trying to see what we can do about Tinko van der Velde. Of course, Tinko did undercut him over the course of that pit window phase. Pit window is still open, but everyone else has done their stops so far. And that Mustang, mighty in a straight line, could be an opportunity over this McLaren, because it's not very handy down the start finish straight in. Go half defensive maneuver, but Sam Gaskell waiting just a little bit longer on this occasion before trying to go for an opportunity. Does look like the pace advantage is in favour of that Mustang though, but around the circuit a move is easier said than done. Luke Whitehead unfortunately knows that very well. He's been struggling to make progress. He's up one position. Man of his caliber, we know, can deliver so much more. And Walsingham has just made his way past Campanella. And going on through turn 3. In actual fact, Campanella could be under a little bit of pressure here. That wasn't a great run at all for him. And Samir Foch has been so opportunistic in this race already. Trying to go for a move on the inside. Outbraked as the Lamborghini. And that gives an opportunity for a side-by-side moment in towards the next turn. Not a favourable line to be on the outside, but if Samir can judge it, he could get a great exit out of that Mustang. We know that it can plant its torque very, very nicely indeed, but the Italian driver, for the time being, holds on. Makes their way up through the chicane. I can also tell you, last lap around, George Boothby has been closing the gap to Castorino. It's come down by 3/10, nearly back within a second. So the fight for the race lead may not be over and done with just yet, although whenever is it? Very rarely do we have the winner in such a comfortable spot earlier on in this race. Samir, though, he's up 5 positions in this race. Not quite the biggest mover on the grid. That honour not for the first time right now, sitting, I think, with Josef Kufel on 9, trying to go for double digits if he can. As a biggest loser, I think, has been Valentin Barrier. Possibly even as well Team Carpenter, of course, for Daniel, yet down 10 positions in this race. Tinko and Sam Gaskell still scrapping away. Marco Yonkers actually maybe about to make a move on Amir Hosseini. Ferrari versus Ferrari, not fought whatsoever by the number 23 car. Gets the move done. Aidan Walsingham scrapping away with Daniil Tillich. Can't make it stick. You can see there Samir Foch in the background has got the move done there. Aidan Walsingham trying to go for another bold manoeuvre. He made it stick around the outside here in towards turn 4 before. Now he's trying to go down the inside line. Tillich sent towards the marbles. Bit of a slide there for the Aston Martin driver, and this could start to bring in Samir, who's continuing his charge up through the field. Very defensive line from Aidan Walsingham. I'm not quite sure you need to go all the way to that side of the circuit as a yellow flag has emerged for Vincent Proel. I feel like that may be a retirement. Excuse me, that was Michael Frey. So I don't know if he's had some contact or something has happened there. Anyway, one way or another. But the Porsche driver in the wall and has retired from the session. We are now down to 34 runners in the field. Tillich versus Samir Foch. You can see Samir's got some good confidence in that car today. This is a more aggressive but yet calculated version of that Mustang that we have seen at times in the past. He is applying a good amount of pressure onto the back of the Aston Martin driver. Let's see Can he do anything down start-finish straight? We're going to have a few opportunities down start-finish straight. In actual fact, Sam Gaskell, oh, I thought he was going to go for a move there. He can't, as Janus Reinders goes down the inside of Emmanuel Tajdain, and it's a storming move down the inside from Nicholas Huben to make his way up into the top 10, which, of course, come championship end, could be vital points. And look at this, because the fight for the race lead has suddenly come down, and with 17 minutes left on the clock, we're back to where we were for the first in the race. Half a second gained last lap around for George Boothby, and Castorino, having looked, wouldn't exactly say comfortable, but not exactly under pressure, now has got a face full of George Boothby, and there's only one difference here. Other than the tyre offset between them, and that is that this time around, Boothby does not have the pressure of Iamolo on his gearbox, and he is looking fast here. He is looking very fast. This could be a proper serious opportunity here. George Boothby needs to try to remain close through the final sector. That Nissan GTR has been so good at putting the power down out of the chicane and having just enough momentum to work with. But Boothby is really going for broke here now. He knows the championship is won on consistency. And when you've got Dario Amelo, Dark Horse, right behind you, it's not easy to commit that same level of aggression. But now he has a 3.5 second gap behind that Nissan. It pulls away out of the final chicane every single time. And just about now the Mustang starts to close on in. But Boothby won't do anything as of yet. Still has plenty of opportunities, but the fight for the race win is definitively on, as is the fight for P5. As Sam Gaskell sent towards the outside line. Tinko van der Velde will try to hold it. He can't make it stick. He tried to keep a nose on the inside turn 3. He is there. Sam Gaskell respects it. Fantastic race in between the pair of them. Tinko van der Velde's trying to take the position back. Oh my goodness. A quick switch to the inside line to defend once again. This is helping out Eric Del Fanta trying to pull away in the Honda. As meanwhile, Luke Whitehead has made a move onto the West Competition Racing Car voice time. Brenham, everybody swapping positions here up and down the order is what these guys do to me every single time that we go racing and trying to keep an eye on one fight. And there's another one that's kicking off as well. Those two don't make any further switches. Campanella versus Daniil Tillich down in towards turn 4. It's not been a good few laps for the number 31 car, and it will be another position lost this time around. Huben managing to get past Emanuele as well. So very slow lap actually last time around, 44.5. And that, of course, he was the first driver to pit in the field. So maybe simply a symptom of those dying tyres on board the Ferrari has not managed to keep them alive. He's got Philip Menard close to the back of him as well. George Boothby out through the final turn. Again, that's a little bit closer than he was last time around. You saw the gap previously at the start of the straight was 4/10. This time around, it's 3/10. And every time he gets that bit closer on the exit of the final corner, it means that this slipstream becomes ever more powerful. It'll be 2/10 by the time they get towards the braking zone. Does he think about a move? The answer is no. He's won enough races to know that desperate dive bombs is not the way. He's sustained pressure for these sorts of victories before. And Amadeo Castorino, whilst he's closed out a few race wins in his time in the K-Skin Pro Series, he's got a big task ahead of him to try to keep George Boothby and that Mustang behind, wide in towards turn 4. Subtle little mistakes that just give George Boothby continuous opportunities to have a sniff, waiting for a gap to come on by. And with 13 minutes left on the clock, whilst these two have been the class of the bunch. They are now going toe for toe, toe-to-toe in these final few laps. Big kick of oversteer from Castorino. He's got to be careful about track limits around here. It is very easy to get a drive-through penalty, so we can't afford to have too much aggression through some of those sections. We've got Josef Kufel with a penalty as well, 10 seconds for a collision on lap 25. I don't think we quite caught that. Meanwhile, George Boothby then locked under the rear wing. No pressure from behind, even with the fighting. These two still pulling away from Iamolo on the last couple of laps. Now in towards the chicane. They look to go. Again, the GTR, it's just so neat and tidy out of there, and it just pulls through the final turn. And based on past history, Boothby will not have an opportunity here down in towards the first corner, so they have to wait for one elsewhere around the circuit. Are they locked in their car for the whole championship? Yes, they are indeed. Once they, they can change car during the season, but they will lose all of their points. So this and George Boothby obviously missed the first race of the season, so his championship campaign is starting now, and it could certainly be starting in fine form. A lot of momentum carried through those opening couple of corners. I really feel like his best opportunity could be in towards turn 4 if he can get enough momentum. But it would rely right now on Castorino making a mistake, and he's not an easy man to put in a flappable mindset. So often when we've spoken to him in the comms box afterwards, it's been a case of, well, yeah, I was managing the car, everything was fine, and he's been locked in one of the biggest fights of all time. And yes, so yeah, to confirm, they cannot change without resetting their points. So we did see a few drivers actually accepting that at one point a few seasons ago. It's quite a rare occasion for that to happen. Yeah, these guys will have to carry this car throughout the entire season. Of course, there is the custom bop in LFM in the Case Game Pro Series as well. The community, and absolutely that's the one. Yeah, it was during that update when we did see a few cars kind of move across during, a few drivers, excuse me, move across during that time. But yeah, with the custom bop, it can sometimes have an interesting dynamic and effect over the course of the season as to which car is strong where. Because we saw the Bentley last week, very fast, and into this one, we thought it could be competitive, but it has not been the car to wheel today. Nicholas Huber, though, on good pace, looking to try to close his way up to the back of Yanis Reinders, see what he can deliver in the closing stages of this race. There's just over 10 minutes left to go. And yes, absolutely. Yeah, Korekis that's certainly had that one nailed to a T, as yeah, the OG Porsche before the 992 edition came out and was still an absolute weapon around Laguna Seca, and it was actually faster than its newer car, its successor, that a lot of drivers were moving to. So Korekis, ever the smart, despite his age, usually drives with experience beyond his years, and was able to get a healthy advantage as a result of that. Meanwhile, George Boothby still unable to find his way past Castorino. Just about 5 laps to go in this race. Again, a little bit wide for Castorino. The brakes on the GTR not quite getting that car stopped, but it's enough. Once he has the exits out of the slow speed stuff, I think the lack of weight on board that car, just managing to consistently keep himself a bit too far up the road for Boothby to apply enough pressure to go for an overtake. And you see the characteristics, the way that the car just snaps from apex to apex. Castorino again will pull away slightly. The gap will be 3/10 by the end of the straight, but just not quite enough to go for a move. How do we fare through the opening few turns? We've gone board the rear diffuser of this GTR. Fantastic sounds as it downshifts. And that Mustang of George Boothby able to clomb those curves a bit more comfortably. And it's this long right-hander where he starts to gain. And then the Mustang as well, with all of that torque in the world, able to power his way on through. Gains 0.2 of a second in that sequence alone. But Castorino, very smooth on the inputs we saw in qualifying. That's not looking smooth, and that's Tansven Zahaka versus Oystein Brenham have a bit of a moment through turn 1 and 2, as is Samir Foch and Amir Hosseini side by side. Not for the first time. Samir continuing to be aggressive in this Mustang, may have made this one stick. Fantastic move there from Samir Foch in towards the top 20 he goes. Hosseini trying to find an opportunity to respond on the way in towards turn 4. Cannot make it stick on this occasion. And whilst he will try to find something in towards the hairpin, unless Samir outbrakes himself, he doesn't. He parks the bus on the apex, and they will stay as they were after the exit through that series of corners. Fantastic move there from Valentine as we head to Valentine. A little bit of contact between Tillich and the Excuse me, no, that is Valentine versus Campanella in the Lamborghini behind, and then Vincent Proel in the Ferrari just behind him as well. Boothby has lost some time on this lap. He is regaining it pretty quickly. He's definitely the faster of the two across one lap, but just can't get the lap time in the places where he needs it. Valentine, of course, losing out a tremendous amount of positions early on. Now, still only down 7 positions on where he started, as Boothby has immediately got himself back into that gap of 4 tenths, make it 3 tenths of a second. So, just takes a little bit of a breather, and then goes immediately back on the charge. Just under 7 minutes of racing left to go, and there are several fights inside the top 10 as the first viewer to be struck down by Nightbot of the evening, Space Sheep. And absolutely, there comes Nightbot. We love him, but he's a bit misunderstood, and he doesn't really. He tries his best, and and he will strike down from above, no matter what, no matter the opportunity. And speaking of opportunities, there could be one on the rise for Marco Jonkers. Tanvis Hacker makes his way by Oystein Brenham, but the 296 trying to tag along into this one as well. That's a wide line there for the Bentley. Will go on board. The Ferrari driver watching with a great deal of interest, seeing if he can sneak an opportunity perhaps for a move as these two ahead scrap away. Fantastic noises from the prancing horse as it downshifts. Savage as it over revs that V6. Little bit of a squabbling way, and I know, trust me, don't we all want to do the dyno dance? You know, but unfortunately Nightbot doesn't quite understand that he has rather mixed values on fun and excitement and joy, all the good things in the world, but he tries his best. He likes you, really. Meanwhile, Jonkers then continuing to apply the pressure, but as of right now unable to find the opportunity to go for a move. Same goes for George Boothby in P2. Gap 4 tenths of a second to your race leader, and there could be a switch of positions here for P8. Nicholas Huben squabbling behind Janus Reinders, and it's become a 3-way fight all of a sudden because Kevin today has lost some time here. 44.3 for him over the last few laps. 43.9s from both Janus and Huben there. As our race leaders, 43.7, 43.8. Fantastic pace out of these two. Of course, they did pit a little bit later, so not too surprising on that front. Yellow flag, I think, came out for someone as Martin Lawrence, who's got going again. So I think there may have been some contact further down the order. He was battling in a bit of a squabble near the back end of the field, I do believe. And speaking of squabbles, we've got a 4-way fight with Tillich, Barrier, Campanella and Proel. So there's some amazing scraps going on all the way to the end of the race. There's only 4 minutes remaining here. As also, if you haven't already, do consider giving the channel a follow. The racing is just like this every single week, and if you want to have your influence on the circuit, which these drivers will take to for next week, you can go and vote in the LFM Discord server as well, either between Massano or Paul Ricard. Campanella having to go a little bit defensive to the pressure that suddenly started to amount from Vincent Proel behind in the Ferrari. Bit of a wide line for the 296 there, so unable to stay and continue that as Massano won in the end. So that's where we'll be heading for round number 3. So thank you everybody that voted for that. Campanella under pressure and seeing what he can do on that front. Also, Massano winning rules me out of being accused of any Boatley bias over the course of the season. Meanwhile, George Boothby, again, so quick through this opening section, but not close enough to make it stick. Meanwhile, Janus Reinders has got through on Kevin today, and I think there could be an opportunity here. Not on the inside, but towards the outside. Is it? Oh, it was like Rothberg versus Hamilton here for a few moments. A few years ago, Janus Reinders has made a mistake all by himself just to make it a 3-way fight once again in this battle for P7. And Huben will be sent towards the outside line there. And yeah, flashback indeed. Very, very quick changes of direction there, but thankfully they all kept it clean in the end. Through the chicane, Janus, not a great few corners for him. 2.5 minutes left on the clock, so there will only be 2 more laps remaining after they next cross the line. as they fly on down. And in actual fact, the Rangers now suddenly under pressure, and it could be Niklas Huben to pounce on them all. There'll be 3 wide into the hairpin. Kevin today goes and dives down the inside, reclaims a position, and he's going to bring Niklas Huben. He's going to try anyway to join the party. The Lamborghini, goes on through. And now in towards Sector 3, side by side. Bentley versus Mustang, and surely Yanis does concede. He has to, otherwise they'll just lose a chunk of time. They still have an opportunity for the pair of them to get past the Lamborghini driver here because their tyres are better. But what a fantastic response under pressure from the number 30 car. That Bentley will be rapid, will close the gap once more. And speaking of gaps closing, could there be an opportunity for Luke Whitehead here? He's been scrapping away with the Honda of Marco Schada for a long, long time in this race. He'll do it once more. Schada on that inside line, you can see he is able to outbrake Luke Whitehead there. It would have to be the over and under to make it work, and through these long, fast corners, I'm not quite sure the Mercedes has the ability to make their way past the Honda, and again, he will have to stay down in P15. Unfamiliar territory for the 2-time Pro Series champion. Was a risk going with the Mercedes, but perhaps it will all make sense further along in the season and be a chunk quicker as we continue on into what is soon to be the final lap of this race. We've had fantastic scraps up and down the field, but the battle for P1 has been intense from the very start. It looked like Castorino could be making a breakaway during that pit stop phase, but George Boothby has got more inherent pace. He's brought it back, and with one more challenge, you can see he's really trying to push on the entry to the final chicane. But that's not going to help him. That is not going to help him at all. He's lost time. He's lost a chunk of time, and he'll know it. Castorino will know it, and that might be the race win decided there and then. But you can never say never in these races, because George Boothby, he's done and pulled off some miracles in the past. Who's to say that he can't do it again? We'll stay on board with him. There's a yellow flag out for Michael Frey on circuit, not for the first time on the exit of turn 4. So not quite sure what happened there, but Boothby going a little bit exploring there on the exit of turn 3, but he is still close, very much in touch with the car ahead. And we see as we progress on through in towards the next couple of turns. And just for you, over the course of the final laps, there you go. There's the manufacturer's list for the race. Look at the dynamic of brands that we've got there in the top 10. We've got Mustangs, Audis, Hondas, McLarens, Lamborghinis, Boatleys, Nissans, McLarens, you name it. And right now, as they fly on through the middle sector for the very last time, George Boothby has given it everything to try to get his way past the Nissan GTR of Amedeo Castorino. And this may be history that's about to be made in the Case King Pro Series. The first pole position for a Nissan GTR. It was a dead heat in qualifying, and it's pretty much as close to a dead heat as you can get in a race. But this is what the Pro Series is all about. But the champion from 2 series ago has managed to conquer the champion from last season. He has been perfect from every single lap, start to finish, and Amedeo Castorino is going to win here at Barcelona for round 2 of the season. A fantastic race between himself and George Boothby, with Iemolo, who will round out the podium. Fantastic stuff to the end. Tico van der Velde applying the chase to Adel Fanta all the way to the end. They will make up the top 5. Niklas Huben unable to make his way past Kevin today at the end of the race. So Kevin managing to hold on despite those older tyres. Great stuff there. Philip Menard holds on from Leon Burns, as does Schada from Luke Whitehead. We go back to this scrap further down the order. It's been a busy one, to say the least. And you can see Tillich here leading, not quite leading this train, because advancing Barry with that resurgence through the field, as he will cross the line. 22nd place, Tillich, Campanella, Proel and Gruning in tow. Mr. Carpet will be a little bit disappointed with that one, I am sure, after such an amazing start to the season. The scraps go all the way down to the end of the field, to the end of the top 30. René Felder and Grant Karekas And when you look at Grant Caracas and Luke Whitehead, of course, in this race, in the Mercedes, and being that far down the order that you know is not a car that's been at its best today. But a man that certainly has been Amadeo here, who has been absolutely unflappable, has delivered once again. And consistency was the name of the game when it came to his championship-winning campaign a couple of seasons ago. Took a little bit of a hiatus in season 15. When we did have him, he was still winning races. But yeah, what a podium. Nissan P1, Audi P3. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? But a fantastic race. I think the one thing that we knew was going to be the case was it was going to be brilliant action from start to finish. And as always, the Pro Series has delivered. What a brilliant battle and scrap between Amadeo and George Boothby. Hopefully, we can have them into the comms box for an interview imminently. And we've even got George Boothby already sitting in there. We'll see if Iamelo wants to pop in for a chat, first of all, for the man that finished P3. And a really good race, of course, from Iamelo, the young Italian, in the Audi, a car that hasn't been a brilliant package overall for a few seasons now. Delivering in fine form here at Barcelona. Who knows? Maybe that car will be the one to have at some other races over the course of the season. And big thank you for all of the amazing support, all of the follows, all the kind words in the chat. We are just 14 followers away from 4,100 here on the English Twitch channel. So if you haven't already and you enjoyed, excuse me, just 12 followers now with that last little surge. If you haven't already and you enjoyed the crazy action of that race put on, do consider giving the channel a follow and joining this community. It's safe to say that it puts on exceptional action every week that we go racing. I can guarantee you that if you do join us for the season, you will be treated to brilliant race after brilliant race. We do have, though, our full podium sitting in the comms box ready and waiting for us. So we will look to bring in the man that finished P3 today, Dario Iamelo, in the Audi. Fantastic stuff from you, good sir. And an Audi on the podium for the first time potentially ever. Certainly, no, not ever. Tinko did win a few races actually, but certainly the first time in a while. And some great pace shown from you. You must be pretty pleased with that one. I'll see some brilliant fights in the early stage of that race as well.
Yeah, it was kind of fun to drive the Audi because it's pretty much a new challenge and it's pretty hard, especially with high temperature like today. But to be fair, yeah, I am happy, but maybe I could do more. Because yeah, in the start I had a shot to overtake Boothby maybe in the turn one, but I got scared because of the start that I need to rewatch because I don't know what happened with Eric there. I almost killed myself. I don't know what happened. And then yeah, it's pretty much difficult with like temperature to stay on track to be fair to manage the tires. Yeah, because the Audi like want to kill you every corner when
Yeah, it's always had a reputation for that, hasn't it? It's quite a leery car to tame.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, I think that both Amedeo and George had more in race pace, and I'm just upset because I did a shit pit stop. To be fair, like the pit entry was bad, and I repaired the damage without knowing that I actually had to repair the damage. I lost like 1.1 second of the damage, maybe another 1 second for the pit entry, and maybe considering George did 2 extra laps compared to me, maybe a shot to an undercut was possible, but I don't even know if I could keep the position then. So yeah, GG to both, and let's see what will happen in the next race.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, yeah, a brilliant race, such a fantastic dynamic. Of cars up at the pointy end of the grid. I think my microphone cut out there for a split second. Apologies to everybody on that front. No idea why. Yeah, such a great mix, such a great qualifying from you, and obviously, like I say, hot temperatures today that you were dealing with, which made life a little bit on the tricky side. We'll be heading to Misano next week, which, if memory serves correctly, is a circuit that you have won at in the past as well. Home soil, of course, for yourself. So, what's the thoughts or feelings, perhaps, for the Audi going into that one? Because, like I say, it's a car that you're still learning and adapting to, but clearly is behaving well and getting you some strong pace and positions.
Well, I hope so. To be fair, I never tried the Audi on Misano. I really hope there is like I don't think it's gonna be like good. I don't know about BOP, but let's see. I really hope on a good result, and I need to check temperature because I don't think they will be like low. But let's see.
I'm sure you will have your fingers crossed. No
Yeah.
doubt. But yeah, see if we can keep those tyres on the Audi cool and see where it puts you. But yeah, brilliant drive from you today, Dario. So much fun, especially in the opening stint with that fight with George and Amadeo. So much to look forward to as well. So congratulations on the podium. Lovely to have you back in the comms box. And best of luck next week when we head to Misano then.
Thank you.
Cheers, Dario. Take care.
Cheers.
Happy man indeed. Maybe a little bit disappointed, like he said there. Could have had a little bit more from that race, but it's always so tricky to tell. And these guys, they extract the very maximum. And the driver that really did try to extract everything out of their car from start to finish, George Boothby, joining us once again in the Cosbox. No surprise there, but what a race with Amadeo there from the green flag underway at the beginning all the way to checkered. You two, nose to tail, so much pressure applied, but just never quite the opportunity to get past that Nissan. It must have been an excruciatingly difficult race from your side, but still a lot of fun and a great result. How are you feeling after that one? I'm afraid you're muted again, George.
Every time. Every time.
But this time I am learning.
The race went great, to be honest. I knew I would have pretty good pace here. This is like just one of the tracks that have always gelled with me, I guess. So, yeah, I knew I'd be pretty good here. And I made a pretty good setup. And, yeah, I wanted to go for that win, man. And, I mean, me and Amadeo, I think there wasn't really much separating us. Like, we got the exact same time in quali. And then the whole race just nose to tail. It was just a little bit of a shame because I was quick in the corners, basically, and then he was quick on the exit of that final chicane,
Yep.
so it meant that I just couldn't get any runs. The best place I think I could have gone was maybe turn 3, because I had a lot more downforce, it seemed, through that corner, and then on the brakes, but just couldn't get close, couldn't get close enough to him, so... yeah, now I know, I guess, how other people felt last season when I was in the Ford. But no, he drove absolutely amazingly, so, you know, he 100% deserves that. He was fantastic today. And, yeah, I'm just glad to be back, because I wasn't last week because I was ill. And then this week, it seems it's passed on to my daughter, so she's been up all night, and, yeah, it's been a bit wild. But so I'm not had much sleep.
Sure,
Ready for my bed.
I could imagine.
But enough, I'm awake enough to send it, and I gave it to my old man. And I don't care. I would have had a full night's sleep and a bed and breakfast. I wouldn't have been able to do much better than that. Amadeo was unreal.
Yeah, the adrenaline in these races, I think, if nothing else, tends to keep your eyes on stalks over the course of those 60 minutes. So it's certainly will wake you up if nothing else will. But of course, and also best wishes to your daughter as well to make a speedy recovery. Absolutely, an incredibly incredibly difficult and challenging race for from your perspective. And Amadeo, it looked like overall you had more pace, but it was just that he had the pace in the right places, and that often is so pivotal. And an incredible evening of action between the pair of you, start to finish. And I mean, it could be saying things too early, but it feels like an interesting build-up to a championship fight, is all I'm going to say on that front. Because if that's anything to go by, I think we will, as ever, be in for a cracker. I'm going to be heading to Misano for next race. That is where the vote from those watching on at home has sent the Case King Pro Series for next week. So likely to be a circuit once again. I imagine will suit both of your cars. Good straight line speed required around there, especially in terms of what opportunities and defensive opportunities that gives you in the race as well. Any ideas in terms of like where you might sit versus a Nissan there, or if you think there's going to be another car that's going to be strong potentially that might put a cat amongst the pigeons, let's say, for the third round of the season?
Yeah, it seems like most tracks, there's always like one or two cars that have an edge. So I don't really know. I'm not a big fan of Mazzano normally, so I don't race it too much. So I don't really know what the best cars will be. I think it might be the same as here. So cars that have good tire wear will definitely have an advantage because it's definitely going to heat up the tires. But I don't know. We'll find out. So hopefully the Ford is pretty good there, and we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. I think one way or another, George, it's going to be a very exciting race. It always is in the Pro Series, and I'm sure we'll be talking again very, very soon. Lovely to have you back. Best wishes to yourself and your family, and also best of luck into next week round at Misano, and I'm sure we will talk again very soon, mate.
Thank you very much, man. Cheers.
Take care, George.
Bye-bye.
Fantastic stuff there to talk to the man that after a very, very hard-fought battle ended up P2 because whilst there were drivers that made little mistakes here and there over the course of the race, some being punished by the incredibly technical and twisty challenges of Barcelona. There was one man that was unflappable throughout, and that was your race winner today, Amadeo Castorino. Welcome back to the top step of the podium and an inaugural podium, inaugural win for the Nissan GTR as well. So history being made, and what a race to do it with as well. Pressure from start to finish from George behind on your side, but you were absolutely perfect. Tell us how you're feeling after that one.
Yeah, now I'm more like chilled because it was a stressful race because nothing happened, but it felt like a 2-hour race because I have George very near to me for all the race, so can't do a mistake. Luckily, the Nissan is pretty fast on the straight and especially have a good exit from corners, but it's not good under braking. So I was just carried turn 9, I think, the airpin. So I was really focused to do pretty well the corner before that because maybe it's the only spot where he can have a run, but. Yeah, apart from that, for sure, I'm happy for the win and also for the qualifying because it was very close. We made the same lap time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, crucial stuff to get that time on the board just a little bit earlier than George. And an incredible thing that we have seen today with all that so close from start to finish between you both. And as we were talking to George there, it was you were very similar, but you were quick in all the right places. And I'm interested to know, in terms of your preparation for today's race, did you look to particularly optimize the setup of the car or anything around that exit out of the chicane, knowing really that was going to be a pivotal part about how your race could play out in terms of either an attacking or a defensive perspective?
No, that's just a characteristic of the car that is very fast out of the corners, and it's also a thing that I considered before picking this car. And yeah, I just optimized the setup a bit for tire wear because I was struggling a bit on race pace. Like with new tires, I was good, but I saw that my tire wear was pretty bad at the beginning. So today I just tweak a bit my race setup. I was a bit slower at the first laps than what I could do, but the tire wear was a bit better. I mean, still nothing crazy because I saw that Georgia still the same pace also with the used tires. Probably, I don't know if it's the slipstream, but I think he had a bit more pace than me, but not enough for try and overtake. So, I mean, that was good.
Absolutely, it served you very well indeed. Yeah, brilliant stuff from you tonight. Now, of course, I'm sure you will be relishing in this evening's results for a while. But I do want to cast your mind over to next week's round, where we'll be heading to Misano as a result of the votes from the choice between Paul Ricard and Misano. And we are heading to the Italian circuit, of course, home turf for you. Any thoughts or feelings as to how your Nissan may play out around there?
I mean, I will have to take champagne because it's not for Ricard. That is one of my worst tracks. So, luckily, it's Misano. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. It's a track that I like, Misano, so hopefully we can do something good. But it's another track where the qualifying is very important, probably even more important than Barcelona. So we need to be very focused on the qualifying lap. Also, probably tire wear will be a thing, and also the track limits because it's very easy to take track limits at Misano. But hopefully we will be good because it's a track that I like.
Absolutely, yeah. It's going to be a tricky challenge. 90 minutes, of course, around that circuit for the third round of the season. So it extends all of those additional challenges, but just a little bit more if you didn't have enough to think about already, to make things just a bit more tricky. Amadeo, what a brilliant drive and evening of action from yourself. Pole, the race to win, a great way to continue your championship campaign. And congratulations on another win to your ever-growing tally. And best of luck for next week, and look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Thank you. Good night, guys. Cheers.
Take care, Amado. Great stuff there from your race winner from this evening. Of course, understandably, a very happy man indeed, and for obvious reasons, because what a drive he put together. George Boothby is not an easy man to keep behind, and Amadeo dealt with it like an absolute pro. He is an absolute pro. He's a champion from 2 seasons ago, so there should be no surprise there. But just, he's George Boothby, #1 car on the platform for a reason, and the winningest driver in Pro Series history for a reason. It's that with a menacing combination of good straight line speed in that Mustang, it's enough to put off even some of the best. So for Amadeo to deal with that so calmly, it's just an exceptional demonstration of his talent. So an incredible evening of driving from him, and I think is definitely setting up what is looking to be an increasingly interesting season of action here in Season 16 of the Case King Pro Series. But there's your results for the evening. Castorino, Boothby, and Iamolo rounding out your podium with Delfanta, Van der Velde, Gaskell, Huben, Reinders, Tajane, Manar, Burnt Today, Stubenrout, Schade, and Whitehead to the end of your top 15. Tanvinza, Hacker, Brenham, Yonkers, Walsingham, Foch, Hosseini, Barrier, Tillich, Campanella, Proel, Gruning, Carpenter, of course, losing a chunk of positions today. Did recover well, at least, to reclaim some of them. Kurekas, Felder, Koifel, also further down the order. And then last of our finishers, Petzold, Lawrence, Arnold, and Duran, who was a lap down at the very end, with Michael Frame, Magnani, Schneckenberger. Unfortunately, actually just the last two. Your DNS from today, Michael Frey, having a little bit of a tricky time around this evening circuit Barcelona. A challenge for the very best, and has certainly put this entire grid through its paces for this evening. But after an incredible evening of action, it comes to an end before heading, of course, towards now what is Misano as a result of all of your votes for next week. And cannot wait to see how we get on with the action there, because the fighting is always immense there. And as Amadeo alluded to, aspects of tyre management, qualifying pace importance, straight line speed, keeping it clean during the race, it's all going to be so pivotal. And we've even got an extra 30 minutes of racing there as well, just to make it that bit more interesting if it wasn't already. Big thank you as well to all of those that have followed on the channel. We almost did it this evening. I don't think we'll quite nudge that milestone over. We are just 8 followers away from 4,100, but big thank you to all of those that joined the channel this evening. If you did enjoy this evening's action here from Barcelona, do consider giving the channel a follow. The Case King Pro Series delivering incredible, crazy action every single week with some of the very best on the platform, and we will be warm and welcoming to you to join us for this incredible journey over the course of the next 10 races. Stick around for all of our action and goodness. If you also want to show a little bit of extra support to those hidden heroes to make all of this possible, you can also subscribe here on the Twitch channel as well. And a big thank you to those that do so. Very, very kind and generous of you, and it does all help us bring you this amazing action and racing. And if you want to stay up to date and in tune with all of the racing, if you missed a couple of little bits and pieces of tonight's race, you want to catch up on all that action, you can head over to the YouTube channel as well and subscribe over there and see all the latest and greatest that the Pro Series has offered for the season so far. If you also fancy just being a part of this amazing community, you can join the Discord server. You'll be welcomed in with open arms, and we're a friendly bunch. You'll be joined by a lot of welcoming individuals in there. Everything virtual and real racing you can get stuck into. Share pictures of your cats, your dogs, you name it, and we're a wonderful bunch, really, and it'll be lovely to have you in there. And if whilst you've been sitting watching the pros go at it and thinking you fancy a bit of a taste of the wheel yourself for the weeks to come, then no worries, you can head over to the lowfuelmotorsport.com website, get yourself signed up, get yourself a license, work your way up through the ranks, and you can compete in the likes of the championships of the Case King Pro Series. Go for these amazing prizes. Of course, there is also daily racing endurance on there as well, so much to get stuck into. And if ACC isn't quite your cup of tea, you can also get involved in all the fun on Assetto Corsa also won. There's some really fun championships on there at the moment as well. Always a fantastic mix. We've got the Formula Alpha from VRC over there as well. We've got MX-5s, we've got Renault Clios, we've got touring cars, we've got Tartuses, so much over there, and also lots of sports car racing as well if you want a bit of multi-class, but in a different kind of way with your prototypes and all of that fun stuff. And I think also the WRC Club Championship, you fancy some voluntary off-roading as well. So plenty to get stuck into. But after an incredible evening of action, as always, delivered by the Case King Pro Series, it comes to an end. But with Misano on the horizons for next week in the Italian countryside with 90 minutes worth of racing, will your votes have a major influence on the way that this championship plays out? Who will rise to the top step of the podium next week? And will we have as much of a titanic fight from lights to flag like we did this evening? I've just got a sneaky suspicion we might, so look forward to having as many of you there as possible for that one. But thank you everybody so much for all the support as always and for joining us this evening. Catch you next week then for Misano. But for tonight then everybody, it's goodbye.